we are going to adopt a common strategy, for a multi-faith. That is where I believe in. A multi-faith networks. That is why we have brought in the CSOs, including the media. What's in the car for? Mukwatana radio so and some are Mukanina, it was said Muka Emagana Etumpo. And today all of them are gathered here. I think that it is an important stakeholders meeting where we are going to brainstorm on this advocacy workshop. We have the expert and the personnel here who are going to walk us through some of the topics so that at the end of the day, we go back to our communities, our radio stations, where we have the people, the masses, because we speak to them. And when we speak to them, they listen. Imam, Ubako in Swechi, Imam will follow as a 1 year or show Musu, Mahum Hajiawaha, my own sister, and so your media for Bibrewa. And in energy median in himself, a Becosupa, Nainano, the beer won't be let's share ideas because a platform will be given to you to also come up with ideas to support how we are going to adopt a common strategy towards this all-inclusive thing that we are talking about. We are talking about deaf recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do a quick introduction, self-introduction. Can I please have another microphone? Another microphone, please. All right, so let me begin from here. You tell us your name and where you are coming from.
I'm Sister Evelyn Watson, a member of the Society of the Infant Jesus. I'm representing the multi-faith leaders in Ghana.
Thank you, Ron. Welcome, sister.
I'm Aaron. I'm representing the chaplain of the Seat of Wisdom of Catholic Chaplains.
I'm Prince Ajay Opoku. They call me Cafdil, Dallas.
Good morning. Eric Anna, the original some party in this empire.
Asian Francis Cafdil Graphic.
Caritas. The greatest social recovery center, David, we are working to TD Central Region.
I've been hearing figure. Is it figure 2 or figure 3? That is it. We want to know your proper name and meanings. I thought you said you were giving us some figures. Oh, you are talking about debt recovery, so you are giving us 5, 2, 3. So I've heard figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. Thank you very much. Is that all, sir?
So I'm
all right. That's figure 4.
Federation of Muslim Women's Association in Ghana and also figure.
Figure 6. All right, so can we please give ourselves a round of applause? As I indicated earlier, we are going to discuss a very important national issue. Very important. That is why this advocacy has been put together by Caritas. When you talk about Caritas Ghana, it is in partnership with the Caritas Africa. And they are implementing this advocacy project under the Africa Inclusive Economic Recovery Campaign Project. So ahead of their jubilee, that is 2025 years, Caritas Ghana has therefore invited all of us here to come brainstorm, have a roadmap with regards to the topic that we are going to treat today. And as I indicated earlier, we have experts who are going to walk us through this topic. At the end of the day, you also be given the opportunity to bring out our ideas, to have a common good that is about Ghana. My name is Kofi Sechema Pobi. I'm a chief editor with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I'll be your announcer and your moderator. Have a good morning. Without much ado, let me invite our brother from Upper East. Those days I used to stay at Bongo. Aaron Wese Tiga. He is representing the Vicar General. I mean, he's wearing the bigger shoes today. The Vicar General of the Catholic Archdiocese of Cape Coast. That is Reverend, very Reverend Father Bonaventure Anna. So please, let's welcome my brother, Aaron Wisa Tiga, to give us a welcome address.
Thank you very much, my brother. I'm Aaron Wese Tiga, as he mentioned. And I didn't actually know I was supposed to represent the Vicar General because I'm too small for that position. I was asked by my chaplain, who was supposed to represent the Vicar General here, Reverend Father Makweni, to stand in for him. But it's rather unfortunate. He's actually attending to also an urgent issue at Taprade. So he asked me as a demonstrator to come and stand in for him. So good morning once again, distinguished guests, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to this highly significant advocacy workshop on special drawing rights and debt cancellation, organized in collaboration with Caritas Ghana under the Africa Inclusive Economic Recovery Project. On behalf of the Church Council and parishioners of Our Lady Seat of Wisdom Catholic Chaplaincy, UCC, we are truly delighted to host you today for what we believe will be a meaningful and impactful conversation on how to secure an inclusive economic recovery for Ghana and advocate for debt relief that aligns with our nation's development objectives. As many of you know, Ghana, like many other developing nations, faces challenges due to rising debt burdens, economic instability, and the lingering effects of global financial crisis. Our country's public debt levels have actually reached unprecedented heights, constraining public spending on essential services and stifling our ability to achieve sustainable development goals. While interventions such as the IMF Debt Forgiveness Program offer some relief, there is still much work to ensure that economic recovery is inclusive and benefits all segments of society, especially the vulnerable and marginalized. This workshop brings together an impressive array of participants, as we all heard, including leaders from multi-faith networks, civil society organizations, representatives from some of the country's leading media houses. We heard Daily Graphic, GBC is also here. And your presence here underscores the importance of the cross-sector collaboration in addressing the present issues of debt relief and inclusive economic growth. By sharing your knowledge, expertise, and perspectives, we can collectively develop innovative strategies that not only ease the burden of debt, but also pave the way for sustainable economic recovery in Ghana. Our goal today is to keep and amplify the stories of those whose lives are most affected by economic hardship and debt burdens. This is also a time for reflection. How can we, as faith leaders, civil society advocates, and media professionals work together to ensure transparency, accountability, and long-term development? How can we use our platforms to influence positive change and ensure that debt cancellation leads to more equitable distribution of resources, improved social services, and better quality of life for all? In the sessions ahead, we will hear from some of the leading experts on SDRs, debt cancellation, and economic recovery. These discussions will not only inform our advocacy efforts, but also strengthen the partnerships needed to address these complex challenges. I encourage all of us to approach today's workshop with good and open minds and a spirit of collaboration. This is a unique opportunity to listen, learn, and engage with one another as we work toward a common goal. We must ensure that the outcomes of today's discussions translate into actionable strategies that can be taken forward, not only by the government, but also by our communities and the international organizations working with us. Once again, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Your presence here demonstrates your commitment to Ghana's economic recovery and to the well-being of its people. I have no doubt that together we will lay the foundations for a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable future. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a very productive and successful workshop.
Oh, can we please give it up better to our brother Aaron? Can I have a prophecy on you? Say, after 2 months here for elections, everybody is prophesying. Maybe in the next 5 years, you step into the shoes as a vicar general. Say, I receive it. All right, thank you very much, brother, for that warm welcome address. Indeed, we are here for a common good. And the common good is that we need to brainstorm. By the time we leave here, figure, wherever you find yourself, you educate your people. DJ and your members, Shagbi, when you go on radio, you have an orientation that Ghana is for all of us. We need to talk about some of these things because it affects our daily lives. It's not about party A or party B. All right, thank you very much. Let's move on. We have a statement of purpose. We have gathered here. Somebody invited us. We don't even know who that person is. What are we here for? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the director, Caritas Ghana, Mr. Richard Nyaba Akurugu. He is the executive director. Please, let's welcome him.
Thank you, MC. Dear facilitators, representatives from the multi-faith networks, civil society leaders, ladies and gentlemen from the media, all other protocols duly observed. The advocacy workshop on special drawing rights and debt cancellation organized by Caritas Ghana in collaboration with Caritas Africa and Jubilee USA seeks to equip leaders of multi-faith networks, CSOs, and media professionals with the necessary tools and knowledge to advocate for an inclusive economic recovery in Ghana. This workshop aims to foster collaboration among these key stakeholders, enabling them to develop and implement effective strategies to influence policy decisions on debt relief and sustainable development. Given the ongoing economic challenges in Ghana, including high public debt, inflation, and structural inequalities, the workshop will focus on the critical roles of faith leaders and the media in holding policymakers accountable for transparent and responsible use of public resources such as SDRs, that's special drawing rights. Through presentations and discussions, participants will explore best practices in debt cancellation advocacy and will develop recommendations that ensure recovery efforts prioritize the poor and vulnerable. This workshop will further highlight the Church's call for debt relief as articulated by religious leaders globally, including Pope Francis, who emphasized the moral imperative to relieve the crushing burden of debt, enabling countries to pursue development, education, and healthcare for all. We therefore encourage all participants to take this training seriously, recognizing that the knowledge and skills gained here will be critical in advancing advocacy at your various levels and platforms. By incorporating the lessons learned into your daily work and amplifying your voices in public discourse, you will play a pivotal role in achieving the objective of fostering an inclusive economic recovery that reflects the values of social justice and the dignity of every person. Your commitment to this cause is essential for ensuring that the most vulnerable in our society benefit from the fruits of Ghana's economic progress. Thank you.
Oh, and somebody saw. Huh? That is the executive director of Caritas. We are moving on. We're going to have our first presentation. Our first presentation will be based on SDRs and debt cancellation. Very important topic, which we have carefully also selected somebody to come and speak on it. If I want to go into the profile of the person, actually we will not leave here. All that I want to say is that he works at ISODEC. He's a policy analyst who has been working there for years. So, without much ado, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome him with an applause. Mr. Bernard Anaba, as he has the honors of presenting to us. And somebody so snacks should be in soon, I know.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Faith Alliance, do we have a slogan? You don't have a slogan. I think right now you should have a slogan. So if I say faith, you say what? Alliance. I'm attempting to give you a slogan. Faith? Faith? Right. Thank you for coming. And like I was introduced, I am a civil society actor, work for the Integrated Social Development Center, and we advocate on economic and social justice. So our work really interfaces or goes along what you also in terms of your objectives. So I'm happy to be here. Something happened on Friday, a very unfortunate incident. We have a national crisis. I don't know if any of you know what crisis I'm talking about. Which one? Galamsey. Galamsey, a national crisis. Then, civil society and labor unions agreed that we have spoken so much to government, but the government is not listening. It's not taking action. And our water bodies are getting polluted when we see the color, when we see how our forest and natural vegetation is being destroyed. It's not good. When I came to this campus, one thing I observed, I said, wow, I've been to UCC, but I haven't been around. I've come a bit deeper today, and I like the environment. When you go to University of Ghana, you love the environment. When you go to most of our high-learning institutions, you love the environment. Well laid out trees and other things. And when you live here, you probably will live longer because it is more of a natural environment. Then why are we destroying it in other places? So that's what is happening. So when we agree with labor unions that the way we can get the government to listen to us is to go on demonstration. I was in church, that was last Sunday, and our priest told us that the Archbishop has asked all of us Catholics to march towards the cathedral to protest in terms of this same demonstration. Our solidarity to other, this is going on. So the Catholic Church took a step to also support. Then labor unions, when we agree, labor unions are also a very important pressure group. They represent society. They represent society. But last minute, they came to tell all of us that they have spoken to government and government has given them some kind of assurance, so they are not going on the demonstration again. A very, very big disappointment. A very, very big disappointment. If labor unions are not ready and fired up to voice out the issues of this country for the people, then we are really not in the right place. Because labor unions are very powerful group all over the world. And their word is often supposed to be their way. But what they did on Friday meant that in this country, there's a serious problem. And we are all part of the civil society fraternity. I belong to the civil society, I would say the core civil society, because I work for an organization that is basically an NGO. And you also, Faith Alliance, you are also part of civil society. We have tried the various groups. Now the labor union is feeling us. Civil society has been trying, but we are not really able to push the agenda so well. So we are thinking that with Faith Alliance, we've now got another group, very powerful group. If we are well organized, we can move this country. We can bring about the kind of changes that we need in this country. So I'm so encouraged by your mobilization, and I pray that you grow in numbers and strength so that we are able to take up the issues that concern our country, so that we are able to bring about the needed change. So today we'll be talking about the special drawing rights and debt cancellation. As we were told, this is an issue that is dear to the Catholic Church and many faith organizations. The Pope always talk about that. The Jubilee movement in USA are always talking about debt issue. Who knows about the current level of debt in Ghana? What is our debt today? Not today, but let's say within the quarter or around this year. Who knows the current level of debt? We are about 742 billion in debt. And it was just about 500 or something a year ago. So it tells you how quickly our debt is multiplied. And since 2002, since COVID-19, we knew what happened. Our country became defaulted. So we have to go to the IMF to bail us out. So the government has to take what? Drastic measures, which means that we are all suffering. Drastic measures. Everything has become hard. And it's all because of what? Debt. Because we have to pay our debt. So the government, until they pay our debt, they can't provide money for social services. They can't employ more people. And I'm sure it's also the reason why the guarantee issue has even become worse, because the youth are not getting jobs. What are they going to do? Idle hands. Then they will fall into the forest and do whatever they can do to survive. So debt is a serious yoke on our neck. So we need to discuss it. much money. People have money. If you come to this country, there are people who really have money. So why do we live in a society that people have so much and the rest are suffering? Why should that be? It is not fair. That's why we are talking about cancellation. People have so much. The world is so rich. If you see the trillions of dollars that people have and they are hoarded somewhere, you marvel. So our world is rich, our country is rich, but yet it's just a few people who are enjoying the riches, and the rest of us are what? Suffering. And the rest of us too, we are quiet. We are not voicing our concern. We have taken it like that. We always say, well, we give it to God. But of course, we also have to work. We have to do something. God will what? Support us when we advocate for ourselves. So we want to now talk about the debt issue. So we want to have a better appreciation of the issues concerning debt and development, why debt has come about and why we are all finding problems. We also want to appreciate the prospect of Ghana's economic recovery, as the team says. We are currently undergoing IMF program. Our country has to recover to relieve the pain on us so that the suffering will be reduced. So how are we going to do that? We also want to understand what the special joint rights are and how they are useful to debt relief. How we can use that to relieve our debt. So since the IMF came to town, the government has to reduce expenditure by about 2% of GDP. That's in 2002-2003. Which means that our country will grow less. There will not be much jobs. There will not be money to social services. They will increase what? Utilities. Electricity prices what? Goes up. Water prices goes up. Or have we got any reduced prices in utilities? So that is the implication of your country not growing. You will not get jobs. Some government agencies do not employ, so most of the youth after school, they will struggle and they will not get jobs. Because we are not spending. And government, in terms of spending on roads, improving infrastructure, building schools, all has reduced. If you are lucky and maybe in your community or your area, your roads being done, maybe you are lucky. But a lot of other places in the country, many roads are not being done. And many schools are not being paid. And you also heard of the many strike actions by labor organizations, especially in the universities. University workers going on strike and all those things because of pay compression. Their income is being reduced in terms of real income. Then transfers to statutory funds, reduction in public services. I've talked about the increase in public utilities. So prices are just going up and up. So why debt? Debt because borrowing is part of life. Every human being along line will need to borrow something from somebody. Countries also borrow because borrowing is usually cheaper source of financing for government. For instance, the government is expecting to make a certain amount of revenue this year. Let me say the government is supposed to make 100,000 cedis revenue, just an example. But it will come from the taxes that it collects from us. But it will make the 100,000 throughout the year, from January to December. So by January, maybe it has made 9,000. February, it makes 8,000. So by the time that it gets to the end of the year, it probably makes 80,000, 100,000, whatever. So the company hasn't got the money now. But the government has promised us that it's going to build schools, it's going to pay salaries, it's going to do this and that, but hasn't got the money. So how does the government finance that? It has to go and borrow and finance that, so that when the taxes come, then you pay. So if you don't have somewhere to borrow, you can't run your country because the money is not there. You collect the money over a long period of time. So you can borrow somewhere, use it to do your projects, pay your workers and whatever. Then when you now collect the money, you pay. So everybody needs borrowing. And borrowing guarantees that when you are able to take advantage of opportunities. For instance, if there is an opportunity to supply some services or goods today, and I'll make a profit, but I don't have the money to make the supplies, and the bank is ready to give me money to do that, then I am lucky. So everybody, when you get a chance to borrow, it's good. You borrow to make more profit. So borrowing, we can't say it's wrong, it's good. Then, but when you borrow, it requires that you make repayment. You can't borrow and you do not pay, because when you don't pay, it will become what? A headache or a burden on you. So anytime you borrow, even though borrow is good, it will help you to solve your problem today. It also can become a problem for you if you don't pay. It's very tempting not to pay, because you see the money and you have to go and give it out and you don't want to pay back. But borrowing is only useful if you use it to generate something. So I have borrowed 5 cedis and I make profit of what? 1 cedi. So I give the 5 cedi out and I keep 1 cedi. So I go and borrow 10 cedis. I make sure that the 10 cedis get me something about 11 cedis, 12 cedis, so I can pay the 10 cedis back. Then I make profit. But if I go and borrow 10 cedis and I go and use the 10 cedis and I'm not able to get the 10 cedis, I only get 8 cedis, then I'm in debt of 2 cedis. Then that becomes a problem. So you only go and borrow if you think that you can make more. You don't borrow to eat. But when you borrow to eat, you'll be in debt. But unfortunately, that is how our country has been going. Like I told you, when the government goes to borrow, to pay salaries, to do projects, the money that comes back is not enough to pay what it has borrowed. It means I didn't use the money properly. And that is where our problem is. We borrow, but we don't use the money properly. And why do we have debt crisis? In terms of what happened to our country that we have to go to the IMF. Why? It's because our debt has become more than we can pay, as I said, accumulation of debt. It's also because we don't, when you borrow to build schools, instead of going to build the schools for the children, some of the money goes to some people's pocket. The school is maybe 50,000, we have gone to borrow 60,000, we only use what? 20,000 or 30,000, and the rest of the 20,000 goes to people's pocket. And by the time the school is not completed, you have borrowed maybe 50,000 to complete a school, but you spend the money, a lot of the money has gone into your pocket, and you haven't completed the school. Somebody also has to come and borrow again to complete the school. So what it means is that you are accumulating debt, and that is how our country has been going. When we borrow, it doesn't go to where we say we are borrowing for. Most of the money goes into our pocket, or we misuse it. Corruption. We all hear the word corruption. That is how our debt issue has come up. Then the cost. Sometimes, when you go and borrow, you go to the bank and you tell you the interest rate is 20%. Then you look at it and say, this one is high. Then another one is giving you 80%. Which one will you go for? You go for the lower one. So when the cost of the borrowing is high, your debt can be what? High. So these are the things that create debt problem. You accumulate a debt, you don't use properly, or you also borrow at a high interest rate. If the interest rate is too high, don't borrow. You see, sometimes, is it microfinance? Some of them, they charge interest monthly. If you want to add up to look at the annual interest rate, it's more than how much you can afford. But when you look at it, you think monthly is small. But when you add every month, it's so high. At the end of the day, you'll be in debt, you can't pay. So you should be mindful of the interest rate, how much you are going to pay back. Unfortunately, our government and African government also, when we go and borrow, the cost is too high. Even though borrowing is good, the cost is also usually too high. So we get debt problem. And we are also not transparent. When we go and borrow, we don't want our citizens to know how much we have borrowed. We are hiding the money until we go out of power before they will see that, this is how much debt he has accumulated. So those are the problems. So we live beyond our means. My income is 2,000 cedis a month, but I live on 4,000 cedis a month. So every time I'll be in debt. That's our situation. We live beyond our means. So the IMF is not saying that you have to cut your coat. And that's why we are all suffering. We have to reduce how much we spend. Then uncontrolled corruption, the bad notes, the misuse of the money. Then ineffective debt management. You have to manage your debt. We don't manage it properly. We institutions, we have all the shrines and other institutions that are supposed to help keep our governance or government in the right path. They are usually weak. They are not able to do the work properly. Then our revenues, paying taxes. Not all of us pay taxes. Some people are able to hide. Those who are even supposed to pay the tax, they find a way not to pay it. They make huge profits, but they'll find a way not to pay it. So the government doesn't get the revenue to be able to pay its debt. Now, the other issue to why globally debt is a problem is that debt on its own, like I said, is an instrument of power and control. Debt is an instrument of power and control. The lenders of money, they use it as an instrument of power to control. Because when they lend you money and you can't pay, you are under their thumb. They can ask you to do anything. God has given you money and you can't pay. And if you can't pay, they'll ask you, come and weed my farm today. You go and weed the farm. It's not enough. You are owing it because you haven't paid. The next time I order you to do something else, you go and do plus, you are owing the person. So the person now has you under his or her control. So debt is an instrument of power and control. And many people, many rich people, many countries have realized that, and that's what they are doing. And that's what they are doing to us, as African countries. We have our own problems, but they have seen our problem. They are using that to control us. So they will make sure that we are always in debt, and they will now use that to control us, ask us to do what they want us to do. For example, in the early 1990s, the European powers used debt to colonize Morocco. Morocco, as a country today, was colonized on debt because they were owing the European powers. You can't pay my debt. Now your country is mine. I will have to rule over you. It happened. Thomas Jefferson, an American president in the 1800s, also used debt for the Native Americans to sell their lands. So you are owing. You can't pay your debt, so you have to give your land to me. Whether it is worth how much they are taking it. Once you are owing, you don't have power anymore. Anything they tell you, you do. Okay, take these stretches of land. And that's how the Native Americans lost most of their property. it has happened over the generations. And today's world, whether you get money to borrow or how much interest depends on some countries. They determine how much you can get to borrow and at what rate. When Ghana went to the IMF, Zambia and other countries also went. Zambia went before Ghana, but Ghana almost got a relief earlier than Zambia. And the interest rate that we got was better than Zambia. It's not so bad. You always get, depending on who you are, because some powers determine how much they will give you and how much you pay. So it means that even though we are talking about debt that we ourselves also have a problem, we are not able to pay our debt, there are other people who are controlling us. Your government has no option. It has workers to pay. He has no money. He wants debt. He wants to go and borrow to come and pay. They'll tell him what he has to do before they'll give him the money, what rate they will give to him. And sometimes they have no option. They just have to listen to them. So all that is a problem for us as a country. And the interest rate, the interest rate is high. And that makes our debt a problem. And who gets bailed out? Who gets help or not? A lot of countries are out there looking for money, but they will not get. This is a calculation to show why the cost of debt is a problem. You don't need to go through these numbers. I just want to give an example. Greece, in 2018, was in debt crisis, just like us. Greece is an European country. They were also having even serious debt crisis, just like we also had. Now, it means that all of us, our countries, are not in the correct place. But when Greece went to borrow about 2.5 euros, 2.5 billion euros. And the interest rate that they got was 1.88. 1.88. So what it means is that when they borrow 2.5 euros, and they paid 1.88, all what they paid was 1.6 billion. That's what they paid. Now look at Ghana. Ghana also went and borrowed. Our interest rate was 8.63. So if we borrowed 2.5 euros, just like Greece, we are going to pay 7.3 billion. So you see, two different countries, the same borrowing, they are paying only 1.6 billion. We are paying 7.3 billion. Because we are an African country, they are an European country. So why would you be in debt? We are all going to use the same money for the same 2.5 billion we are all borrowing. But they will pay 1.6 billion after 30 years. We will pay 7.3 billion after 30 years. So that is how unfair the world is. And those are the things that the Pope and other world leaders are also fighting against. Very unfair. But they have justification. They will justify it. They will tell you why they have to charge you that interest rate. They say your country, they can't trust, your people are corrupt, we are not sure you pay. They will give you all sorts of reasons why your interest rate will be high. So it means that every time you never get out of the hole, you are always in the hole. So we need to understand how unfair the world is for us, particularly in Africa, and to see what we can do. Stand together as a people and fight against that. Otherwise, we will always be poor and poor and poor and worse and worse. Because we have been to the IMF, this is our 17th time, we will continue going. We will go again. So all the suffering we think we are suffering is not over. But next year, when things start getting better, then the next one, it gets worse again. Because there are things which are controlling that we don't have control over. The people who have the power are controlling us that we don't understand, but that's what's happening. So this is just a graph to show you that economies grow. And when you are doing business, just like running a country, it's also like you are growing. You make more money, you pay your debt, so you get better. Your debt has to reduce over time. But when you look at this graph, it tells you that this from the IMF and World Bank, in developing countries, as the years go by, our debt is getting bigger than our production. That's the picture. So is it ever going to get better? As the years are going, our debt is getting bigger than how much we produce. So we'll do all the galamsey, we'll cut all our forests, we'll go to the farm, the cocoa, we are not able to pay our debt because it's getting higher and higher. Our cocoa will get finished, the yields are getting lower, we destroy the forest, but we are not able to pay what? Our debt because it's getting higher and higher. That is what the IMF and the World Bank are telling us, and that's the picture. So it means that there is something that is happening. And that is why, as a group, we need to take it beyond the day-to-day things we see, but how we can mobilize, join together with other forces to fight the powerful who are suppressing us. So many will blame the government. We all blame the government, of course. We also take a blame because sometimes they don't use their money well. So we blame the government. But it's not all the blame. It's not all the blame. So our government used to get debt on concessionary, very low interest rates. Then over the years, we accumulated so much debt. Then in 2000, the Jubilee movement, the Faith Alliance, the USA, Jubilee the world, they fought against the unfairness. So they gave us debt forgiveness, debt relief. Because they reduced our debt, they canceled most of our debt. It was because of the Faith group, the Jubilee, is a movement that brought about that debt forgiveness. So our slate was clean to say that okay, our debt has reduced, so we can now start a new beginning. But you know what they did? They changed the borrowing landscape again. At that time, when you borrow, you go and pay, like you borrow for 5 years, when the 5 years, you go and pay all your debt before they give you another borrow. Now, they say, no, you don't have to pay all your debt. Don't worry. Come and borrow. You pay, maybe you have borrowed 5 million and you pay 2 million. Before the 3 million, the 5 years is up, they say, come and take another 5 million on top of what? Your 3 million. So you have 8 million. Before the 8 million will get to 5 million, so come and take another 10 million. So the government, it doesn't have to pay the debt. It only has to take debt. Then when it's 4 years or 8 years and it goes away, it's not the problem of the government. Another government will come and face that problem. But if you have to pay it, then you will see how you have to pay. But this time, they have changed the situation that you can take more. That is why I said debt is an instrument for power and control. Because when they get you into a debt situation, they control you. So as much as we are getting debt, some people are happy because they get a chance to control us. They've changed the borrowing landscape in such a way that we keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. It's like getting hooked on a drug that you can't do without. That's our situation. So the IMF and the World Bank who tell us, come and take a loan, You think they are good, they are giving it to you, but they are trapping you. A lot of it is trap. Of course, it is good that they give you the debt, but the terms that they give you, you sweat and you can't pay. And that is the situation that we have. Meanwhile, the money is there, but they won't give it to you. If it's their own person, they will give to their own person, all right. But if it is you, because they want you to remain where you are, they won't give you to you at a rate that you can pay. They will give at a rate that you can't pay. But sometimes we too, because we have no option, we just go for it. And we keep rolling the cycle. So I talked about the HIPIC where our debt was forgiven. So, like I said, debt is a good servant, but a bad master, just like fire. It's good, but if you go against it, you suffer it. Debt is also being actively used as a source of power control. I've talked about that. Debt is a social justice issue where religious doctrines have warned against its use to enslave and impoverish poor people. Debt is being talked about in the Bible. Long ago, before we are even talking about it now. That after every 7 days, you forgive your debt. In Deuteronomy and Leviticus, it's talked a lot about that. And when you go to Islamic affairs as well, debt is a serious issue. The way they borrow in Islamic rules is they don't take interest. So the holy books know that debt can be used to enslave people. So it says that you forgive debt, or don't use debt to enslave people. But human beings, as we have, where we have come now, we have seen the light in using it to control others, and that's what is happening. So we need to have a periodic debt forgiveness so that we are able to promote equality, generosity, compassion, and new beginnings. Otherwise, if we are going to say that pay, then the situation that we find ourselves is what is going to be. We will never be able to get out of the trap. But we have to have people who have compassion. Yes, you have given the debt out, you have made your profit. After some time, cancel the debt and let there be a new beginning. Because you are still rich, you still have your money. You can still borrow more, or you can still lend more and still make money. But people want to become super rich, and the rest are just die of debt. So we look at the IMF. So when we went to the IMF, the promise that the government made is that they will reduce our debt to 55% of GDP. And how much of our revenue will be used to pay our external debt is 18% by 2028. That was the promise that we made, which means that things are getting better. Because currently our debt, when we went to the IMF, our debt was 88 point something to GDP. Meaning that when you take yes, about 88%. Currently it's reduced to 70%. But where we want to get to is that it should be 55% by 2028. We are not yet at 2028. Then how much of our revenue, if we collect over the year, in a year, we use to pay our debt is 18%. That is our target. But currently it looks like we are doing better. So we are doing restructuring. They've done the domestic debt exchange. Some people have to haircut. Some people have to, their investment. They have to reduce their interest rate and other things. So they are giving money to the government because of the debt issue. And the government also said burden sharing. We are all in a very bad or poor state, so we all share the burden, which means that people lose money. People who have done savings, they lose their money. Government take part of their money. And as a country, many services are not funded in terms of government providing money for those services. Employment is reduced. So we are all suffering it in one way or the other. when a country, and you know how inflation, prices of goods, that is how the suffering is manifested. Things are so hard for everybody. So in terms of the loan, we had $3 billion from the IMF. And those who borrowed us, we had a bilateral borrowers, country to country, who borrowed money to Ghana. Then we have private creditors, they are private companies, banks, and also borrowed money to the government. And also commercial markets, they all borrow some money to, government went and borrowed money from them. So we have to pay all those ones. So they have to negotiate with them so that they cut back some of the borrowing that, or the interest rate or how much we are going to pay to relieve us so that we'll be able to pay our debt. But since December 2022, we stopped paying our debt. We were in default. We couldn't pay our debt anymore. We just stopped because we couldn't pay. So that is what they are now negotiating to normalize, to say, okay, the debt you didn't pay me, this is how we should do it. If you are going to pay me, if it is 10,000 Ghana cedis, okay, pay me 4,000 Ghana cedis and let the rest go. So that's the negotiation that they are doing now. And that's the debt relief that we are also calling for, so that they reduce our debt that we owe. I don't want to call it, these are the people that we owe, the amount of money that we owe to various countries. So Ghanaians or people who bought treasury bills, borrowed things, bought the government instruments, means that they lend money to government. They lost about 30% of their money because government has to take part of their money to say that to pay for it. So they lost part of them. That's about 30% of their value. And so we're also expecting that those that the government also borrow from abroad, they should also lose about 30% or more of, so that it should be fair. We're all sharing the burden. So as of now, the government has reached agreement with some of our lenders. And so far, the countries like China, France, England, the individual countries that borrowed money to Ghana, they have relieved Ghana to the tune of about $5.1 billion. They have forgiven some of our debts to the tune of $5.1 billion. So this money is not like they are giving you money. It is the money you were not paying them. When we stopped paying in 2022, some of that is in this one. So it means that you are not going to relieve you are not going to pay it. So it's about $5.1 billion. And we had so we are expecting to have a debt relief of about $2.8 billion between 2023 and 2022 from other debts, our lenders. So if you look at so far what we have got, all the owing that we owe, they have given us back 44% of our debt. We have got a relief of 44% of our debt in terms of the negotiation that the government is doing. And our target is, well, that's the GDP, 55% of GDP and 18% of revenue in 2028. So we are still long way. And in terms of government revenue, how much of our revenue that we used to pay debt has also reduced to 15.3%. It was above 30%. When the government collects the revenue, use more than 30% to pay debt. So there wasn't much left. It was almost 40% or so. I forgot the exact rate. It was more. We used that to pay debt. So there wasn't much left for development. But because they have relieved us, now we are going to use about only 15.3% of our revenue to pay debt. So it means that things are getting better in terms of the debt relief. But we haven't started seeing it in our pocket yet, because it is what we are not paying. That's why we are not feeling it. But that is the numbers. Gradually, when we are able to maintain them over some time, we begin to see the effects. So these are a number of countries also who were also in our same situation, debt crisis. You have Chad, you have Ghana, you have Sri Lanka, you have Suriname, Ukraine, Zambia, and all of them, and they all sought for debt relief. So the Ghana one, we realize that we have got about 44% of our debt forgiven, a debt relief of 44%. You look at other countries, some have got 25%, some have got 17%, some 29%. So it varies how much you negotiate and how much those who are going to give you the debt relief, how much they like you. That's why I was talking about this power in control. If you're a good boy in their books, you get favorable deals. If you're a bad boy in their books, you probably will not get the best deal, or they will not even give you a deal. And when we say you're a good boy or a good girl in their books, it means that you are also giving some things away. Maybe a company is coming from Italy. You come and do mining in Ghana. The government can give them very cheap deals. They don't pay so many things. In return for what? So sometimes we lose a lot of things to them that we don't realize. The government will not tell you. So that's how they control us. They will give you all these things, but behind it, they also know what they will get from you. So it doesn't come that easy. So we have been able to get about 44% of our debt so far. Hopefully we can get more. So this is just to show how it has reduced. The blue line is how our debt payment has reduced. Well, the brown line up there is how it used to be. But the blue line is after they forgive us of our debt, it has reduced. How much we pay back has reduced. Which is all a good sign, only if we don't go back to that same situation again. So currently, what we have up to June, our debt stock, as I said, is 742 billion Ghana cedis, and that's about 70% of our GDP. It used to be 88%. It has come down to 70%, which is a good sign. And the one that, the domestic one, where Ghanaians, the government owed to Ghanaians, that's the domestic debt, is about 27.6% of GDP. Then what it owed to the external people, countries and market is about 43% of GDP. So that is our current debt levels. But we want the 70.6% to come to 55%. That is our target by 2028. So at least it shows that we are making some progress in the numbers. But in the living conditions, we are still suffering it. So burden sharing. All this meant that we should be able to share this burden. We have had a crisis, debt crisis. It shouldn't be just a few people. A lot of people who did investment, bondholders, treasury bills, they lost some money. No, treasury bills didn't lose money, but bondholders, they lost money. They lost part of their money. All right. And you and I, if we did not lose our money as bondholders, what did we lose? We lost, price increases in terms of high utility bills and all that. We are all paying something towards it. So that's burden sharing. So the point is, debt restructuring is supposed to support us to get to the right place in terms of restructuring our books so that we are able to do well, and it's supposed to transform our country, our economy into a better economy. And it also requires what? Debt relief, cancelling some of our debt to be able to do that. So it requires all that to afford that. So the special drawing right, I didn't get the time to speak about that much, but it is, we are all members of the IMF. And if you are a member of the IMF, you have a voting right. And if you have a voting right, it goes with how much money is allocated to you. And the IMF money is called a special drawing rights. So if you are a member, you have a certain amount there, just like you are saving in Ghana Commercial Bank. Once you are a client of Ghana Commercial Bank, there's a certain value attached to you. So that's a special drawing rights. And during the COVID period, the IMF thought that most countries are in bad situations, so they gave their money back to them to support development. Ghana got about $1 billion. It's our own money. That one, you don't have to pay interest on it. It's free money, your own money is given to you to support your development. So it's IMF money called special drawing rights. But you can exchange it in dollars only to the countries that also have this special drawing rights. So all the members of IMF have this. But some have bigger than others. So this happened in 1972, 1981, 2009, and 2021. So it doesn't happen often. Before the IMF or a bank will call you that, look, I think you are suffering too much. Come and take your savings and go in. It doesn't happen that often. But these are the only times that happen. And 2001 was one of the times that happened. And we got $1 billion. And they allocated 456.5 billion SDR for all countries to share. And mostly, the rich countries didn't need it, so they kept theirs. And if you look, Africa had about 33.83 out of that. Many continents had bigger shares of that amount. A lot of them didn't need it. They kept it. So those countries that needed it got about 35%. Ghana inclusive, most poor countries got about 35%. The rich countries got about 65%. They didn't need it, they don't have it, and they kept it the free money. And that is where Jubilee USA is asking that they should use that money instead of us going to IMF and the other places to go and borrow money. They can use that to support poor countries. Why is that money sitting there? When you don't need it, you are so rich. And poor countries, people are suffering. You can see they're suffering all over it. They'll keep it. They won't give it to anyone. They'll give all the reasons why they don't want to give it out. So in conclusion, mismanagement. Our own internal mismanagement as a country causes debt problems. And also, the forces of global situation, like I said, the interest rate, the high interest rate that they put on our borrowing is also a problem. And usually poor countries, we suffer it that much. Then also local production systems. In terms of what we really do, we don't add much value into what we do. In terms of our work, our products and other things. So our production is going lower and lower and lower over the years instead of improving. So all those things does not give us enough resources to pay our debt. So we're also saying that religious bodies are the best allies in debt campaign because debt forgiveness emanated from the religious doctrine. So the issue of debt cancellation is a religious issue. It came from the Holy Ghost. And there's a reason why they ask that after a period of time, forgive debt. Because they know that for debt, it will accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. People will become richer and richer and richer, and they don't need it, and they keep being richer, whilst others are suffering. So after some time, you have to forgive debt. But I think it is not made an issue. It is made as if you ask for debt cancellation, it's a wrong thing. No, it's not a wrong thing. The resources of the earth is for all of us. Some people have found a way to get more than necessary. God gave us, so we are all supposed to share it. If not equal at all, should be equitable. But some people want to get more than necessary, which they don't even need. So that's why we are calling for debt cancellation, and particularly for religious bodies to champion this call. So you look at examples. Germany, before the World War, after the World War in 1957, they also were in a serious debt, even more than the situation that we have here now. But they were supported. They were supported generously, and that helped their country to recover, to become a very successful country. And even countries like Sri Lanka, Zambia, Pakistan, all those countries, African countries, we all advocated that they should forgive Germany's debt. And they get a very generous debt forgiveness so that they monitor how they are recovering, and very generous debt forgiveness. And Germany recovered. Why are they not doing that for African countries? I gave you the example of Greece. Greece has recovered. If it's an European country, a Western country, they will give them all the support, the resources. But if it's an African country or a developing country, forget it. So those are the injustices that we are talking about. So they are using debt as a control over us, and we need to fight for it. So the concept of debt forgiveness and cancellation is biblical, and it is well documented in the Holy Ghost. The Quran and the Bible, they talk about debt, so we need to. If you look at debt, like I said, you go to Leviticus, you go to Deuteronomy, it talks about debt forgiveness. And this is the foundation of our campaign. What civil society, all of us are talking about debt cancellation. We didn't just take it. It is something that is there. But we are not talking about it. We are not making a wisdom out of it. So that when you talk about debt cancellation, somebody says you are asking too much. No, it is not too much. It is fair. It is what brings about equity, what brings about fairness in the society. Today, if you take USA as we are talking about, US as we all think is a democracy, they owe about $3 trillion. The US economy generates about that. They owe about $35 trillion. They generate about $3 trillion a year. How are they going to pay? The US cannot pay this debt. But who are they owing the debt to? Some people. They are there. This $3 trillion belongs to some people. In this same earth that all of us belong to, this money is for some people. So that's why we are saying that it's not fair that people accumulate so much wealth from this same earth So we talk about media advocacy. I said earlier that at first we have when we talk about the traditional role of the media, we always say inform, educate, and entertain. But then there's an advocacy part. We cannot say that we are only informing or educating and then just go and fold our arms and say we are not doing anything. Advocacy, looking at contemporary society, should be an aspect of the media, and the media must actually work in this direction where we look at advocacy, which is key. So advocacy relies on strategy. So strategic use of the mass media to advance public policy initiatives. So if we are going to use this platform, well, this is a public policy initiative that we are pushing agenda. What is the initiative about? Debt cancellation, debt relief, and economic recovery. So that is what we must focus on. Once we are able to look at the roots in the community advocacy. So when you are looking at this, you cannot say you are working in isolation. Community is part of us. We have to reach out to the people in the various communities with our message. How do we then move to these people with our message? It is therefore for us to shift our focus from the personal to the social. So when I talk about the personal to the social, for instance, where we tend to focus more on personalities. Okay, this person has said, this person has done this, but then what are the social dynamics? Are we actually suffering or having effect on the heart? If so, that's a social problem. There are a number of us who are going through it, and we cannot say that at least we be dwelling on quite personal matters, like people can fault one particular person for the problem of the society, which we will have to do with different things. Then we have to do focus on behavior practice, okay, where we look at policy or environment in terms of which practice, okay, or behavior of the two policy or the environment. So whenever we are dealing with policy or the environment, is about this issue that we are discussing.
Very important that interfaith and CSOs are critical aspects when it comes to these issues about advocacy, and the media in our advocacy must do well to make this felt. But then the media in working has to do with agenda setting. Definitely, we have to set an agenda. What is the agenda that we have to set? Because we cannot, on our own, we say, okay, we are doing this. If we do this and we don't get other people to support us, then we may end up crashing. But then, agenda setting, for instance, when we talk about McCombs and Shaw, that is in 1972, for instance, we talk about where we submit the media institutions, where the media institutions shape debate by determining what issues are most important. So here, what are the issues that are most important? I think the first presenter gave us the most issues that are most important. We talk about debt cancellation. Okay, it talks about proper management of our funds, which is also key, because if we don't manage our funds properly, then we'll also come crashing. So definitely we also need to set that agenda, okay? And the media, which is the dominant entity that selects what news stories to report. So we have morning show hosts, we have news reporters, we have editors. So then when there's an issue, and the newspapers publish the stories. Definitely, they are doing morning shows and where they do newspaper reviews. Definitely, that agenda must be pushed. So, when you are dealing with the media, we are now talking about different segments. So, you cannot leave the morning show host, because when the papers and the other online platforms discuss this or put the publication on paper, then we need people to talk to the issues. As for the reporters and journalists, they will come and then talk to you, all right, they will publish the story. But how do we then sustain this debate? We need to sustain it. So we don't have to say, okay, once we have published it, then we go to sleep. Definitely there should be some kind of sustained debate when it comes to this, and it's very good. And when you set that agenda must not be left just anyhow. At the agenda, then we talk about the institution. We shouldn't even let this agenda fall in the hands of the politicians, because we are dealing with interfaith institutions that controls quite a number of the public, because almost all of us belong to one faith or the other, and we go to mosque, we go to church, we listen to sermons and things. And definitely, once we hear our imams, our pastors talking about this issue, it becomes something of national importance. Because when we leave this particular issue to the politician, one person will say, you created this, another person will say, you also created it. We will not be able to get a proper agenda where we push. So we automatically need to see that whenever we are setting the agenda, the media, in playing that important role, must engage faith-based institutions in ensuring that it works. So the media, for instance, once we mirror society, okay, whatever the media publish or the media reports is what the society thinks of. Okay, so when the society thinks of something, is what we believe. So we said the society, these are what the people are saying. We don't say this is what we are saying, because when we are reporting, we remove our own biases from the stories, and we quote people or institutions that this is what they are saying. We are mirroring their expectations of what should be the ideal thing. So here we need to understand that the agenda setting of the media, for instance, we know that the media actually mirrors the society, and in so doing we also influence. Okay, when we are influenced, societal and economic issues, for instance, is based on what we bring out to the public, and whatever we are bringing out to the public is very crucial. And in this arena, what exactly are we bringing on to the public? Debt cancellation and economic recovery, which is very crucial, because if we recover from the current situations, what is the next move now? Can we continue to borrow again and our debt becomes unsustainable? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves and also try to work towards. Collaboration. Once we play a critical role in shaping public opinion, we have to collaborate effectively with interfaith institutions and CSOs. These are crucial because they have the experts to talk about issues. The faith-based institutions, they control large numbers of people, because Friday or so, that was yesterday, when they organized a walk, quite a number of people attended, including the aged. It demonstrates the power of faith-based institutions. Because if, for anything at all, we can even gauge that once they said, okay, this particular event, some politicians wanted to hijack it. We don't want any politician to hijack this prayer walk. Tells us that whenever we are setting agenda and in this course, we are not supposed to leave it in the hands of the politicians, the policy analysts, the faith-based institutions, because they are able to break the issues for our understanding. We go to the mosque, they pray, they give their sermon in the local language, go to our churches, the same thing, and even in our traditional environment, and when the chief is speaking to us, or the traditional priests, there's a way they speak, and they speak our local language. So we need that approach in this. We have to collaborate with all sectors. Okay, we focus on stories of individuals and communities impacted. We are not supposed to focus on maybe politicians saying what is the impact of the economic downturn on individuals and communities. What has been somebody said that even the impact was felt in churches because the offering became less because people were not getting money to contribute or give offering, and those who run charities, once people are paid, they want to support charity. But here is the case now: the person is in economic hardship or is facing one problem or the other. The person's donation or contribution to charity then becomes something he or she will withhold it. So we try to focus on communities impacted by economic challenges and the debt burden that they are going through, which is key, because when we are bringing real stories are good. It will allow us to know what the situation is, and it will also make a case. Well, if you are going to make a case for debt cancellation, you need real stories to tell. Because once you say, oh, the minister said this, the public official said this, what has been the impact of the issue on the individual? Because it's not the politician or the somebody in office. It's about the individual, the ones who are in the communities, who are facing one problem or the other. They are the people that we talk to, and that one, when you talk, you make a case. So if we are making a case that, look, due to these policies, okay, our economy is not doing well, we are having issues, and even if with the relief and that we are being given and the rest, okay, what is the way forward? We also have to work towards that. And the media can evoke empathy. Okay, when we are evoking empathy, you let people know the essence, the difficulties that people are going, let people feel. Sometimes that is where you talk about the narrative kind of stories. We are doing more storytelling approach where we are able to bring out the emotional side of stories, and which are very critical. And we also provide insight and stimulate informed discourse or discussion, because if we are discussing issues, we cannot discuss issues in a vacuum. We need to discuss issues that that come from a certain point. The information that you are giving must be precise in whatever you are doing. The media can also give voice to activities of faith-based institutions, which I've said earlier, and we also look at the messages that they preach, and we give our platforms to them to be able to talk to us to ensure that this agenda is sustained. And we do more continuous discussion to help bring debt relief to our people. And we talk about the community presence of faith-based institutions. You go to every community, they are there. So we actually need them to push this agenda forward, because we cannot do debt relief or cancellation without engaging or using faith-based institutions and CSOs. They are very crucial in this regard. So by way of recommendation, we talk about reporters and editors. When we are talking about reporters, they are key. They go to the field to gather information and present, and we talk about the editors, they work on our stories. But then there is the morning show hosts as well. Okay, sometimes you need the gatekeepers, people who shaped your story to make a correct impact, and it's also very crucial in this. And we have to ensure enhanced collaboration with faith-based institutions. At least we shouldn't let it end here. We'll do more effective collaboration in this regard. And also we do frequent training for media practitioners on financial reporting, because it shouldn't be centered on the big cities and towns. Now we go to villages and then we have radio stations all over. At least the economic reporting should be made accessible to most of us. Most journalists should be able to train on economic issues. Once they are trained, they can be able to help or play a part in building the Ghana that we all want. And we need free flow of information on the use of funds from the finance ministry, the Bank of Ghana, and other other financial institutions. And we also make use of the right to information law. Conclusion: the media and faith-based institutions must work towards projecting the image of the country positively. So we are to work in championing that agenda, and we also need to influence the nation's financial issues by provoking and sustaining long-term economic recovery agenda. Then the other point is where the media and faith-based institutions can play a critical role in influencing people to become more confident and positive about the country, because you cannot use the medium to also run down our country. We need the media to build the society that we all want, and it's very crucial that at least the two institutions must come together to push this narrative. And we should also hype government actions, okay, and plans geared towards ensuring economic recovery. So if government says we are doing this, we should hype it, and also give opportunities for faith-based institutions and policy analysts to be able to give their views when it comes to these issues about debt cancellation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Yaboy. This tells us that indeed, my colleagues in the Inky fraternity, we have a lot to do. It is not about party A, party B, every morning. So please, let's have an agenda which is geared towards a national development. And this issue is very important. Soon, we'll be having what we call a press statement by the multi-faith group. But before then, you are key stakeholders, very important key stakeholders. You've listened to the policy analyst, you've listened to the part of the media. What are your recommendations, your questions, your contributions? Please, if my microphone is ready, let's have them. 3 sets, 4 sets, the answer, and then we take another one before we take the press statement. So please, if you have any contribution, let's read it, because it's for the national agenda. We are being streamed live on Cafdil. All right, sister, you want to ask a question? Rapporteurs, please, let's take notice of all these questions.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether it's a question or a comment, but as the first presenter was presenting, I was kind of a little bit sad because we have gone through HIPIC and we have reduced our death to some level. What happened that we came back to even a worse situation than we used to be. And as he was presenting, my mind went to a study I made, and the WDI, World Development Indicators of the World Bank, gave a statistics about poverty reduction levels in the world between 1990 and 2005. It was around 35, and they reduced it to about 10 in 2005. And around that time, China was very high, higher than Africa. But by 2005, Africa, specifically Sub-Saharan Africa, became the highest continent with the highest poor people. About 55% of the 10% global poor people were living in Africa. And it became worse even after COVID-19. Sub-Saharan African alone is currently hosting about 62.8% of the world's poor people. So what happened that China could have reduced its poverty level and inequality level to about 12% within these years, but Africa has remained the same. And he was even mentioning the fact that when some countries go for the loan, they give to them, but Africa, ours is small. Okay. It's because of the management, as he mentioned. When we get all these debt relief, where do we channel them to? I remember not quite long ago, Greece, we were asked during Lent that we should contribute towards releasing Greece. And now Greece is on its feet, but Africa, specifically Ghana, we are growing worse and worse. So my concern is, yes, we want to advocate for debt relief, forgiveness. What happens? Where do we channel all the monies that we could have paid as debt to help better the economic conditions of Ghanaians within the country? He mentioned, and I want to emphasize on it, that if we don't channel the monies into industries that will engage everybody, the poor, to be part of the economic development so that they can also enjoy the benefits, we will remain the same. So industries like the manufacturing industry, where the skilled, the semi-skilled, and even unskilled can have something to do, and a spillover effect even to the agricultural sector and the service sector. We need to focus on those industries to expand our activities so that our expenditures can go high and it will improve our economic well-being and the well-being of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. Next question. What question? We are an input. All right, sir, from the Peace Council.
I should hold the two together. Let him stand up. Thank you very much. My concern is about the presentation made by the first person, talking of improvement in our economic situation. He gave an analysis of the situation before the COVID, or soon after the COVID, before going to IMF, and that our GDP before going to IMF was around 88%, and now it has come down to 70%. But this is what he said. But our debt at the time of going to IMF was around 640, 650. And now you are talking of 742 billion. So I'm not clear about the correlation. Your debt is growing, and you are saying you are doing better. 2, you are giving debt relief. You are not paying your debt, but rather you are giving reliefs. So how can you say that the economy is doing better? Already you said that we are not feeling it in our pocket. By looking at it arithmetically, I don't see my way through.
Okay.
Is it a kind of account flowering that we have in the country or what? My second issue is that are we getting copies of the presentation? Because they are so useful.
What?
Copies of the presentation.
Copies, okay. All right. I think the administrators should do that. Let's have another question so that Bernard will come and answer. Any question? All right, so two quick ones. Please give the microphone to Bernard. Sister is concerned about how China, Greece were able to release themselves. If you look at the debt recovery, he mentioned in 2005, where China was able to relieve themselves. Why is it that Ghana, they are still getting worse? Because they have done a research to prove that. So what is happening? Anytime we go, what are we doing? Why don't we focus on manufacturing and agri, so that the rippling effect is that when people get jobs, then the economy can thrive. So these are the issues from Sister. And Sir, from the Peace Council, is also talking about our GDP, which is now 80%, which has been reduced to 70%. We are still incurring debt. Why is it that you are telling us that the economy is doing better? You cannot decipher between those arithmetic. So you tell us, are we doing better, or you are just throwing that into our eyes?
Thank you very much for those two comments and questions. Very important. And so I'll discuss the issue concerning our production system, agriculture, manufacturing, and all that, and China doing well. Yes, of course, as a country and as a people, we are not doing well enough in terms of working hard, using our knowledge, and producing something that is more valuable. Yes, we are not doing well. As we talk about the Chinese, they really work hard. And that is why they are where they are. When you look at us, where we have our strength is the agriculture sector. Cocoa, we've been doing cocoa for how long? All that we do is farm cocoa and export. We haven't been able to use our knowledge to add more value to it. Our agriculture itself has been rudimentary. We haven't been able to use technology to be able to scale up our production. So when you look at our production as a people, it's low value. We don't have add value to it. So as time goes on, as a people, we are not moving forward. So we are not able to pay our debt, because definitely when you don't produce more, you have to produce in excess so that you can sell the excess, have a reserve to pay your debt and have more. But that is not what we are doing. So there's a problem of leadership to galvanize all of us to produce more and better. And like you said, the manufacturing sector, we all know China, they are doing so well in the manufacturing sector, and a lot of things that they produce for themselves, they manufacture it themselves and they used to produce, scale up. It means that they were able to galvanize their talent, their energy, their ability to do that. I don't know whether to say that it's leaders who are not galvanizing us to also get to that level, or it is our own laziness or ineptitude why we are not there. So we can look at it from both levels. Let us work hard to take ourselves from where we are to another level. But that is also why I'm also saying that there is also another problem where, as African countries, we also have a bigger problem where the developed countries do not want us to get out of where we are, because they like our resources, our gold, our diamond, our this thing. They want us to remain where we are. They will come and take it and go and develop and send us the goods for us to buy. That is the the colonial structure. But we have to fight and come out of it. Now we know that that is what they are doing. When you look at most of the researches, you could see that there is an intention to keep us at this level. But we should also fight to get out of it. So that is our problem. Definitely we knew that, for instance, the debt restructuring that they're talking about, it is what? To boost our production system. so that we are able to import less and produce more. If it is farming, we produce more. But are we doing it? It's a problem. At the end of the day, we'll get all this loan, we do all this thing. At the end of the day, nothing comes out of it. Education, how are we using education? To make sure that people who are come out of school, the knowledge they acquire, they actually manifest in terms of what they are able to do. But if we don't give them the support, everybody is looking for what? Canadian or German passport. So it's a problem that all of us need to sit up to see how we can get out of this. Then the last one, yes, you're right. When I say we are doing well, I'm saying that in terms of the numbers, because the target that the government set was that we should reduce it from 88% to 55% by 2028. And now we have done 70%, means that we are on that trajectory. Then the expenditure, the revenue to expenditure, it was over 40% or something. Now it is around 15.3%. But we are supposed to meet a target of 18%. We have even met that target. You understand? Which means that when they forgive us our debt, we reduce those numbers. So we have done those numbers. But it's not reflecting in our pockets. It's not reflecting in our, and we are also not taking more debt. So it means that there are some things that we haven't still done. Even though the numbers are looking good, we still haven't done some things. Inflation, which means that we need more imports than exports. So that comes to the question of our production. If we were producing more, manufacturing more, and sending it out, then that problem will solve. It will reduce the inflation. We'll have more to eat. We'll have more to, we'll have more reserves. So that problem will be solved. So just making the numbers look good is not enough. At the end of the day, the debt restructuring that we did must bring about increased productivity. If it's agriculture, let us improve on agriculture. If it is manufacturing, let us do more manufacturing. So that aspect is the difficult part that for several years we haven't been able to do. But if we are able to do that, it will be able to reverse our problem. Because at the end of the day, it's about you producing better and more, keeping some reserve for a rainy day, for another day, and that is what we don't have. But that is what you expect government to galvanize all of us to do. But how can we? They are not doing it. That's why we need to advocate, find ways and means, even though the external problem too is there. So when we are looking at the government not doing what it has to do, we should also know that the external pressure also is there. Sometimes the kind of agreement they go to sign with the external people, it's not in our benefit. Sometimes we don't even know about it. And that's why I talk of the power and control, because somebody somewhere knows that he doesn't want you to get out of your situation. So whatever, when you move here, he's watching you. When you move here, he's watching you. But of course, since we know that, we should also know that he's watching us, so we shouldn't move that way and move another way. So it's a kind of thing that we have to be smarter, we have to be hardworking, we have to find a way out of this situation. Otherwise, it's a kind of cycle. We just keep going, almost year in, year out, nothing's getting better.
Well, let's hear it for the policy analyst. Great input.
Yes, which it must stop somewhere. And that's why we have to do more advocacy.
All right, so, sir, from Peace Council, that is why we have brought all of you here. Stakeholders, they are very important. So let's keep the conversation going. The media is going to do their part. The religious bodies are going to do their part. You do your part, I do my part. So it's a continuous process. Thank you very much. Haja was my way at next flag. So maybe so this a question. I'm on the microphone, mommy.
Salamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Please, I want to know from the organizers of this program, though the media is here, we are streaming live on TV, we the interfaith or multi-faith are here. But I want to know, after here, what next? Are we going to have a petition or a communique where we are going, that we have a specific place that we are going to present it, or what? I just want to know, after here, what next? Thank you very much.
Great input. Give her a round of applause, please. So organizers will answer that. That is why you have a representative of the faith base who is going to give a press statement. So the media are here, they are going to capture it, but it goes beyond that, as you are saying. So, Executive Secretary and your people, please take notice of that, so that we can have series of events that we do. We need to have a community, so that at the end of the day, we know that we came here. We are not joking, but we are putting something practical to tell our policymakers that they need to what? Change. Because from here, my media people are telling me that your orientation is going to change. Maybe they'll get 10 minutes of their airtime to talk about it. That is a promise that they are making. So you also do your part. Thank you very much. If there's no other question, then please let's have the representative of the multi-faith network to tell us about the press briefing. She holds a doctorate. It means our main passenger. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sister Dr. Evelyn Otripwati to give us a press statement on behalf of the multi-faith network.
Yes, sir. Figure. I'll walk up with us.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols duly observed. We are here on behalf of the Multi-Faith Network, and our statement is what I am going to read on behalf of my fellows. As representatives of faith denominations in Ghana, we, the leaders of Multi-Faith Network, come together in unity and solidarity to raise our voices to address the pressing economic challenges facing our nation as we approach the Jubilee 2025 year. In the spirit of compassion, justice, and shared humanity, we urgently call for an inclusive economic recovery and debt relief that prioritizes the well-being of all citizens and fosters sustainable development. The current economic landscape in Ghana is marked by significant debt burdens exacerbated by the impacts of the global pandemic, climate change, and other socio-economic challenges. We witness firsthand the struggles of our fellow citizens as they grapple with rising cost of living, limited access to essential services, and the difficult choices between serving debt and investing in the welfare of our communities. Drawing inspiration from the recent calls for debt forgiveness by religious leaders across Africa, we echo the plea for a new debt jubilee that offers hope to mankind and safeguards our planet from further environmental degradation. Global leaders, financial institutions, and policymakers must prioritize the forgiveness of unpayable debts that hinder our development and ability to effectively fight climate change. Furthermore, we emphasize the importance of implementing responsible lending and borrowing principles to prevent the recurrence of unsustainable debt payment cycles. By advocating for transparent and accountable governance practices, we seek to ensure that government expenditure is directed towards poverty alleviation, healthcare, education, and social protection programs that benefit all citizens equitably. As we look forward towards the Jubilee 2025 year, we call upon all our leaders in Ghana, the international community, and financial institutions to align their actions with the values of justice, compassion, and solidarity. Together, let's forge a path towards a more inclusive and sustainable economic recovery that uplifts the marginalized, empowers the vulnerable, and paves the way for a brighter future for us all. Thank you.
Oh, let's do it better for sister. This is organized labor for multi-faith network. Thank you very much, sister. Doctor
Evelyn Ochre Boatin, for that support. Thank you very much. Yes, we are now coming to the close of this all-important assignment. Let me remind you that this program is surely facilitated by Caritas Ghana with support from Caritas Africa and Jubilee USA Network. Thank you very much for that wonderful support. Now, we are coming to the close of this whole episode. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. John Ohiniba Akwa to give us a closing remark. He's a hard-working gentleman here. Oh, please, let's welcome Mr. Akwa with a round of applause. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Good. So today has been our day as responsible citizens of this country. There is a universally accepted standard that no one should be left behind. No one should be left behind. So our purpose of coming here actually is to energize ourselves, galvanize ourselves to push not only our government, but the international world to have mercy, let me put it that way, or this way, on the low and middle income countries and relieve them of their debt. So as faith and civil societies, it's our duty, because at the end of the day, we are the sufferers. So on behalf of Caritas Ghana, Caritas Africa, and Jubilee US Network, we appreciate your coming here for this wonderful workshop to enlighten ourselves, to educate ourselves, for us to have one common voice to push for this debt cancellation. If we don't do it at our level, then who will do it? So to our resource official facilitators, Mr. Benanaba, we thank you very much for coming to lead us in this discussion. It's always wonderful that whenever we call upon you, you accept to collaborate with us, to share with us what is really happening, not only in Ghana, but also outside Ghana. To our media consultant, I'm also grateful to you for accepting the role to push and to put the role of the media with our advocacy venture to ask the international world for this debt without restructuring or cancellation or relief. All what we want is at least the burden on debt to be taken away for us to breathe properly. And to all the participants, members of the Peace Council and the Faith Internal Alliance, and all others, we thank you very much for coming. And we pray that together we will fight for this debt cancellation to be a reality. And not only that, but whatever we are relieved from, our government will make use of it.
Please join us. Elaji.
Mojo